thank you for coming on and staying in communication with me and to work this, like, to still plan it. And I really appreciate it. And yeah,
You're welcome. Thank you.
I like to start off with like going back like way to the beginning, like growing up in Chicago and all of that, and like the moment you realized you wanted to be an actor, and if there was any sort of like movie or something you saw that really stuck with you, or
Yes. So growing up, I grew up a latchkey kid on the south side of Chicago. My parents actually met in Los Angeles. And I was just having this conversation with my mom yesterday about she was pregnant with me. There was a family emergency in Chicago. She had to fly cross country from Los Angeles to Chicago to visit family. Her brother had had a nervous breakdown and was admitted to the hospital. And it was Jackson Park Hospital. She was en route to a party. Now she's pregnant. This is the kind of stuff I have. You asked me, when did I know? Okay. She's pregnant with me, clearly. She decides to go to a party. She's getting dressed, and her mother, my grandmother, was like, "You're in labor. Milauna is coming."
Oh.
And she's like, no, I got to get to this party. Apparently, Chicago has really nice parties.
Oh my God.
I was letting some air in. So anyway, staying on track. She actually delivers me at the hospital where my uncle was, which is Jackson Park Hospital.
I thought you were gonna say at the party.
At the party. That would have been cool, right? Now. She was obedient. My grandmother was a nurse.
Oh, okay.
So she conceded. She listened to her mother and went to the hospital and induced the labor. Obviously, I came like 2 hours later, and then she flew back to LA. This is my point. She flew back to LA with me. I was 2 weeks old, and we lived in Hollywood. Okay. So I lived in the plan would have been that I was born in Hollywood and raised in Hollywood, but I happened to be born in Chicago and raised in Chicago. I just lived in LA till I was about 3. So it comes to my awareness that I really discovered the love for it when we came back to Chicago. And I think it was because it was such like it was jarring to go from being with both of my parents in one city and having familiar environment to an unfamiliar environment. And the terrain in Chicago is quite different than California, obviously. So in that, there began this discovery of creativity in the arts. And so my family says that when I came back, that's what I talked about mainly, was wanting to be on TV, knowing I was a star. But I remember my life changing in terms of cinema when I saw Sparkle. And this is paying homage to Irene Cara, who recently transitioned, seeing the original Sparkle with her and I'm sorry, I got a note on the side. Yes. Seeing Sparkle, the film, and having such rich relationships, like this women I felt like were sisters. The story is about these sisters who dream to use their God-given talents and gifts, in performance, using that as a platform to get out of their circumstances, right? And in that comes these relationships. And so just to see that in a film version, it was a period piece, obviously, but just to see it cinematically, it had to have had an imprint on my life, because I began to operate in that kind of capacity. I began to believe that was something that was possible. I just didn't know how. And that's the tricky thing about living outside of a city like Los Angeles, is unless you know someone in that field, especially growing up during my time, I didn't know anybody who had done television and film. I have a great aunt and uncle who were entertainers. They actually had a comedy troupe. It was the two of them, a duo, that they would travel with, I guess, within the region and perform for small audiences. And my mom had done some stuff with her friends, like comedy troupes where they make
Oh,
up. And so
uh,
I kind of saw performances around me, and obviously I was active in church or in school plays when I could
mhm.
be, but I always knew that film was my love, and that's where what I fell in love with first was film.
And community theater and along stuff along those lines. And
Yeah,
yeah.
the community theater element comes from, again, as I said, seeing the people that I know and love. That was the way that they performed. It was like that's the trenches. It's the gym. I knew that theater wasn't as profitable. Like you couldn't may have, they weren't paying artists.
Yeah.
So the theater was underfunded, and the funds that they did receive rarely go to the artists, which was always something I never understood and I didn't really like. So I definitely feel like that influenced my choices when it came to work. But it started from my perspective with the visual element of
Mhm.
Black women that were classy and they felt familial, they felt real, and I didn't understand emotionally why I was affected by this fictitious story. It's like that there's power in us telling a story a specific kind of way where people feel like they are experiencing these things. And I felt that as a kid. The Last Dragon was another movie. Uh, just seeing images that typically get to I didn't see often, and most of us, it wasn't just me, most of us didn't see often growing up on TV until
Mhm.
the Cosby Show. But realistically it was the love of film. But I still go to theater. I was actually, during the pandemic, I was one commitment away from
Oh,
going back to theater. Yeah, because I was in need of something specific, and that was like creativity. And I was presented with an opportunity to do something, but it was so quick. The turnover was so fast. I didn't feel like it was the right decision to make based on what was presented to me. But that shows how I do understand and value live performances.
the audience and every
Yeah,
the,
it's an instant gratification, a validation. It's like instant. You can feel that energy. You can feel when they don't get it. You can feel when they
mm,
do get it. You can feel when they get it and they don't like how they feel about it.
everything.
Yeah, so it's like magician work. It's like if you're very aware and present, you're going on this journey with them, and you're accustomed to some kind of immediate response. And so that kind of fuels you in a way. But with TV and films, with TV, you can kind of get that too. But with film, it's quiet. So you could, perform in a film, hence Jazzman's Blues is my last film, and not know how people are going to really react until you're in the theater and
Yeah.
it's non-industry related, right? It's like nobody in the business.
Waiting for those tweets to roll in or like checking like social media or different.
Or
Yeah.
even even people like
Oh,
you don't.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, strangers obviously are going to express themselves, especially now because we all have a platform to express how we feel as consumers, which I actually appreciate. But I'm making reference also to people that know because until you've done a certain caliber of work, it's still a dream to people. It's still, you're still pursuing that thing. You still have your little, whatever they want to add after that. But once you like you show that you're consistent. And like for me, I'm not going anywhere, God willing. I'll be able to do, you'll be able to see the evolution of my work in a real masterful way. But until that happens, it's all still a dream, so to speak. It's still, like, it's like, at any time you can always do this,
looking
have
for
you
the
thought
next, yeah.
looking for the next what?
Just looking for the next role, or just like moving forward, like with your like stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, not yes, because there's always the fear that people impose their own fears onto us.
Hmm.
So whatever their fears are, be it struggle or failure or betrayal, whatever the fears are, people impose it onto you with the hope that they're protecting you, that they're preparing you. And as for me, because I'm in for the long haul, it's a marathon, things have come in a specific kind of way. So even for instance, How to Get Away with Murder, like you said, I was on that show when it was still on the air. It's not even on the air anymore. Obviously I was on the show when it was on the air, but this was like season 3. Yeah. And then it went on multiple seasons after that. And it still has an impact on people's lives, so well, what you mean? Why did you shrug?
No, like an impact on people, and I'm like here, like every
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Pictures of Annalie, yeah, like
that's real. Like growing up, I'm sure you would have probably not. I'm assuming that you wouldn't have imagined that Annalise would be in your life like this growing up, this Black woman.
Everywhere.
Right.
That's a good, yeah, like I never would have thought, or I love it. Yeah, like, and then moving to LA in 2002, how did you finally like make that reach to get back there, and any obstacles or
when you say reach you mean reaching back to Chicago, or what do you mean when you say reach?
like making the move back to LA and
LA. Oh, it was okay, yeah. So 2002 was a difficult, I wasn't quite ready in 2002 for everything that happened that year, but also leaving home is not easy. And I didn't have any direct connections to the industry at all. So I hadn't established myself enough in Chicago, having done some work in Chicago. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have a manager that had roots in Chicago, in LA. My mom was managing my career at the time. I hadn't gone to conservatory. I didn't graduate from a university that had a creative program. So there are platforms that are in place to assist people. I really am the epitome of the working class artist who became like the thespian that I am striving to become. So I started from scratch in 2003 and really applied a lot of the things that I had heard about in Chicago. And that was really just work hard and do the work and be consistent with the work. So I would go to film festivals. I would volunteer at these film festivals. Most of them were centered around showcasing people of color and their work. So it would be like the Hollywood Black Film Festival, the Pan-African Film Festival, any film festival in LA, excuse me, where I could also network, where I could meet people that were like-minded. And that is just the nature to me of having a plan. So I had a plan. I was like, I'm going to at least gather these many connections and then build off of that. And it wasn't always, it didn't always lead to the kind of outcome that I'd hoped, but all I needed is something. You only need like one connection to make you feel like that's viable. to make you sense that you're headed in the right direction. And anything that's fortuitous is going to encourage more work. And I began to do that. And I got my first TV show in 2003, and I was Cold Case. And that was enough for me. I had done some things in Chicago. I'd done music videos and industrial films, and I mean, short films, student films, independent films, commercials. I did it all. I did, of course, community theater. I was just talking about this. This was in Chicago. And I tried to do it in LA as well. And I want to say this to encourage other people who may be listening to this, of the kinds of jobs you can do that still keep you in the industry, or at least keep you focused on the industry. And it was hospitals, medical facilities. They have instructional performances that help to, it's like you create a scenario for employees on how to deal with circumstances that happen live. So it really honed my improvisational skills. I didn't know that at the time. It really honed that. Thank you, Mom. Because I got to act with other up and coming ingenues. And one of them was Erica Hubbard, who I worked with on Lincoln Heights, which was like the next thing that kind of allowed me to see growth in the business, where you could perform once on a show. They have no desires to bring you back, but something clicks that makes sense, and they feel led to broaden your storyline, which prepared me for How to Get Away with Murder. So How to Get Away with Murder was interesting because I had auditioned for the role of the university president.
Oh, cool.
And so you know the show, so you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it was Lauren. I feel like Lauren is her name.
Yeah.
Vita, I think it's her last name, but Lauren is her name. I don't think Vita's her last name. My apologies. She was
Velez
yes,
Velez,
yes, Lauren Velez, yes. She was a kind woman. I have to say that. She was so kind. Because I saw her on New York Undercover, so I was already familiar with her. So when I saw that she had booked the show, I was like, of course that wasn't the role for me.
It's her.
But I was right, not just that, but it visually it made sense. I didn't feel I was mature enough and experienced enough to play a president of a university. I was Annalise's boss, and I just mentally couldn't see myself in that kind of authority. But I believe that I could be on the show, and I feel like that's how I got there. The casting director said that. The directors saw and the producers saw it, and so they offered me. I did not audition for Renee Atwood. Hold on one second. Okay. I did not audition for it. They offered me that role. So I had no idea the trajectory that I was going to go on that show. I didn't know. I thought, and again, it was only one, maybe 2 episodes. I was supposed to come in and, create some sort of resistance to her. And that dynamic stuck. And that's how I wound up getting 11 episodes that season, is they were able to see that there was some longevity to our to the struggle. It was just rooted in truth and rooted in someone who did not believe in that kind of truth.
Yeah, I see you. No. You played it good though, because if everyone hates, or like that kind of, like, we love to hate, like the character, like, because we love Annalise, but
yeah, I didn't. I love Annalise. Like, you think y'all were the only ones who love Annalise? I was watching Annalise when I was out of the country. It was the only. First of all, I was shocked. I'm in Thailand, and they obviously don't have American programming, and Asia. Like, so there was one channel in Bangkok, one that had an English, it was like an English network, English speaking network. And it was rare that they would play dramas. And if they did, they were typically procedurals like Law and Order, and an American Warrior, that competition, American Ninja Warrior.
Oh, the obstacle yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. It was that. I would watch that. I would watch like episodes of Law and Order and How to Get Away with Murder. And this was before I was on the show. And I just remember being mesmerized by the idea that I am an American Black woman in a foreign land watching a show of an American Black woman. And that is progress. And yes. So I loved Annalise, and I actually also loved Renee. I loved working on that show. I feel like all of the opportunities that I've been presented with over the span of my life prepared me for How to Get Away with Murder, including being a part of a children's theater program, which I have to mention. It was the African Cinderella at the Ivanhoe Theater in Chicago. My best friend actually referred me to the job. Her name is J. Nicole Brooks, and she's like a sister. She would tell me about gigs, and that was one of them. And I had never done children's theater, so it was fun. And I was one of the evil stepsisters. And when I tell you, listen, I got some ugly tweets when I did How to Get Away with Murder. I was called all kind of names. Okay.
I'll show some on the screen when I edit it. No, fine. No.
Please do. Remind the people.
What they did.
But when I did children's theater, you talking about the instant response of the boos. Okay. I got booed when I would come out. And I remember loving it. I remember thinking like, oh, because I would get booed and I didn't take it personally. I knew they didn't know me, and I would go in the audience afterwards, and I could be able to still bond with the kids. So they understood the dynamics of it being just a performance. You know, it really kind of, as I said, set me up for not worrying about being an anti-hero or being the antagonist or presenting obstacles for the hero, because, you know, that is a part of the journey.
I wouldn't boo you if I saw. I wouldn't.
You would have booed me.
I really do want to bring up, tomorrow we can catch you on the new episode of Law and Order, and I was wondering if you could talk about that, for how that came about, and working on such like a long running show coming back. And it's the original Law and Order, right? Or is it like the SVU? Or
it's the original. It's the dad.
Period.
It's the original. Okay. Yes. And it actually came as a direct offer.
Okay.
That's a blessing. Yeah. I'd worked on Chicago PD. The episode was directed by my sister friend, Christine Swanson. She was familiar with me in the past, and she wanted to work with me and pitched me and was like unrelenting with her creative decision. She saw something that I could contribute to the show, not just the fact that I'm from Chicago, which I have to say is the only time I've ever played someone from Chicago was on Chicago PD, and I did not audition for it, which tells me something. But you know, I was able to. She saw something in me, and it came out, and so much so that after I was offered Chicago PD, I was then offered. Also, I do want to say this. There's also an encouragement behind teams. Your team as to how you know, should be presented to the industry. So my agent definitely advocated for the offer. So it was a mutual, like I had dual support, I'll say. So thankfully, against what some producers saw, the director of the episode saw that it would work, and it did work well enough for one of the producers who was doing FBI offered me that role. And so his name is Rick Eade. And Rick Eade did the reboot of Law and Order.
Oh,
so this is one of those moments in the business that I would always hear growing up in the business. I didn't grow up, but I did kind of sort of as an adult. I learned that, you know, and everyone's not going to love you that you work with. It's just the nature of life. But there are going to be moments where people are going to recognize what other people love about you.
Oh,
and that comes out in our work. And in that, in addition to having professionalism and, you know, decorum on set, those things all kind of work in alignment to getting me the next job. That's been the most successful for me. I mean, I have been auditioning for so many projects on tape that I rarely get any of the things that I audition for. And I'm not even exaggerating. Most of the jobs that I get have been direct offers because of something that I've done in the past, or we've worked together. They've heard some things. The auditions, the last audition I had was for Animal Kingdom, and that was way before the pandemic. So it's been years. I did audition for Jazzman, but it was just on tape. I didn't have it in the office session. So when Law and Order came, it was a shock. I just received a call, and it was like, Rick wants to offer you a role on Law and Order, and you have to leave tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
You have to fly to New York tomorrow. Read the script on the plane. It was like all of the things that I had heard about that it has happened to some people in this business, where you get all of the material at once and then you have to figure out how to make it work within 24 hours. And I believe that came the How to Get Away with Murder prepped me to be able to play, or at least believe that I could play, a public defender, which, you know, obviously is in the realm of a procedural.
That pop up? No.
Yeah, yeah. 9:55.
What the?
3, 2, 1.
What? It has not been that long. What the heck? Okay.
You have more to ask me?
I have some Jazzman blues questions.
Do you want to reconvene after the time ends so we can complete it, so you can have a full?
Please,
I have the time. Yeah.
Just I can, like 10 more, maybe, like after. Okay, thank you. Oh my God. They're charging $150 for this Zoom thing. I can't do that right now.
No, I understand. Trust me, I understand.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to pick off with the Law and Order? I don't want to cut that off because we can watch that tomorrow and see.
Okay. Yes. So I play a public defender that puts the system on trial through a case that I'm working, based on, you know, your Law and Order is typically based from headlines, right? Mm-hmm. So there is an issue in New York specifically about how Rikers handles prisoners. They're actually committing suicide. I think the last article that I read, and it was, I think it's all serendipitous, but this particular episode resonates with me because as I was out there working, I was able to confront some family connections, some things with the actor that I'm working with. Chandre is his name. He's playing the role of a man who was you know, accused of a crime and didn't have the resources to protect him, and so that's where my character comes in. And that is very common, where people are wrongly accused, falsely accused, coerced to
Mm-hmm.
confess, because people feel comfort in knowing that someone's caught, even if it's not the right person. It's typically brown and black men and women, and they're held in these maximum security prisons like Rikers, held there until they go to trial. So it's not like they're just housed there like it's a dorm. They're imprisoned, they're incarcerated, they're literally confined to a jail until they get to trial to find out if a jury of their peers finds them guilty of the crime. So in that time, things happen. Khalif Browder, that is one of the most infamous stories of a Black man who experienced that and then was found not guilty, and then came out of the system and could not function, because that's not what prison is for. Is, you know, is designed for profit. So it's designed to support recidivism, which is you're taught to now become a criminal, no matter whether you had the inclination to go down that path or not. So this particular episode came during a time where I could address my own connections to family members who have suffered from or been who have experienced recidivism, who are currently incarcerated, and have been previously incarcerated, and figuring out how to acclimate themselves to our current society. Because, you know, in prison, you have to remember they strip you of all pleasures. So, you know, there's no access to technology in a way that we're still trying to learn. We're still trying to be educated on. You know, obviously there's no proper nutrition. You have to figure out how to survive that without losing who you are in your core. And you kind of see that in the show. I advocate for help, and I advocate for the DA to assist me in this way so that we can, you know, come up with a better solution. And by doing that, I put the system on trial. That was a long way of me telling.
That was good.
And mind you, I have to prepare this in 24 hours. I just have to say that.
We'll be watching tomorrow. Oh my God. I'll tweet along with you.
Oh, thank you.
No, that sounds really, really powerful, and what people are still going through today. And it's important to highlight it on shows like this. And that was well said. And we'll be watching tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. No.
That was good. What was I gonna say? I forgot. Okay. Oh, we're on a time. Okay.
We got time for one more. We have like 4 minutes.
Oh, they got the countdown. Of course, I want to ask you about Jazzman's Blues and working with Amira and Tyler Perry. And I watched when it was coming out. Tyler Perry did a lot of interviews and saying this was like his passion project, and he's been trying to get it made since 1995. It was like his first thing he wrote. And did you feel like did you feel that energy on set, like him finally getting to make this, and any pressure or anything filming? Or
well, I will say there is beauty and passion.
Mm-hmm.
And working with someone who is passionate, really, truly passionate, beyond it just being profitable, but the desire to tell a story based on something that you wrote before people believed that you could even tell a story was felt by me. To date, it was the best film experience I've had, because it never felt like work. It never felt like an arduous task of heavy lifting. I never thought like any day, even because you always have stuff happen that's not planned while you're filming, no matter the budget, no matter the location, and it does not matter who the director is. It doesn't matter who the producers are. If it's a feature film or an independent film, there's just in life, things are not going to work out the way that we hope or plan, and you have to make do. You have to make adjustments. And no matter what came up, what surfaced, I still enjoyed it. And that's rare. It wasn't ego driven or led. We were all committed to bringing something and contributing. So that's fun. Working with Amira is, for me, was a joy and a reminder that iron sharpens iron, because I watched her work over the years, seeing the underground, have seen her out and around. I actually posted a picture recently of us being at the same event, but not knowing each other. Transitioning to having worked with this woman and getting to know her and her family, and respecting her. And I felt like that was present on set. Yes, there's nerves, because like any instance where you are working on a project and it's passion, you hope people like it, or they love it, actually, is what you really want, is for them to love it. Well, if they don't love it, at least did you like it? And I feel like that is what we were able to accomplish, is that we were proud of our labor as well as the efforts of Tyler.
I loved it. So yeah, I had to get some questions in there for that. And of course, we have to talk about a little show called How to Get Away with Murder, and just a little couple hate tweets, or just a little. You said earlier you didn't have to audition, but what was it like? And you said you watched the show before in that story. So I always like hearing that people watch the show like before. It's like cool, like to but what was your reaction like first day on set and like the first scene and stuff you filmed?
Disbelief. I was privileged to have connections to people that were friends with Viola. So I knew her, obviously, not just from her work, but even in these mutual connections, I had met her and we had conversations. But when you're on set, it's different, because unless you're in the environment where you usually meet people, people look different, So when I came on board, I was extremely intimidated. I never saw myself on the show, because they already had 2 Black women, and the industry tends to condition us to believe that there's not enough room for us, even though the show may be starring a Black woman. It's like, well, if there's 1 Black woman and you got 2 Black women, why would they be 3 Black women? And I had to recondition my mindset, and that came with me actually auditioning as for the president, because I wanted to do a great job. I had to believe that I could be a young professional working in academia. So I'd already mentally prepared myself for it, even though the role was so different, and I hadn't had the liberty of auditioning. When you audition and you get a job from the audition, there is familiarity with the sides and the script, because you worked on the material long enough for producers to direct you, to redirect you, or to give you an adjustment for the producer session. Like there's steps, so you become so familiar with the material that it's in your body. When you're offered roles, you don't know what they want. Don't know what they're looking for. You have to create it. So I was extremely intimidated that I came in with the character that I had to create. And it was, from my understanding, just rooted in, I would present opposition in this specific case, not in Annalise's life.
Her
That's
man.
yeah.
Oh shit. Girl.
Technically, I have to say they broke up. They
Uh-huh.
were not married. She was married first. She
Well.
cheated on her husband with this man, and they broke up. So technically, it was not her man. But
Uh-huh.
I understand. Okay? As a woman,
Oh
I
Lordy.
understand. Yeah, it's very tricky when you navigate these waters. But
And
she was not my friend. I have to add that addendum to it too. So I was
did
not violating any code, okay?
oh shit.
I was
I
not violating any code. I was not coming in to steal her man. But Viola knew it when we were filming, and we were blocking. It was a blocking rehearsal. We weren't filming yet. It was a blocking rehearsal, and I was rehearsing with her, and I'll never forget, she turned around and she saw me from a different perspective, and she was like speaking to the jury, which are all background artists, because obviously none of this is real. I have to remind people that this was a fake show.
again, disclaimer.
Yes, even I like, once I was on the show after a certain amount of weeks, I said, like, I mean, I did not kill Wesley, but they think I did. So if you guys are writing that I was the killer, I'm gonna need security. They're coming for me. They think that I am the one who killed this man, and I need to know, do I need protection? But but during this blocking rehearsal, she had actually disclosed what she saw as their vision, and that I was going to come in, and I was the younger hot Black woman who was coming in to steal her man. And I remember thinking, like, no, I would never do that. I would never steal anybody's man. No. That's what you're here for. And I was like, really? I didn't have that vision. I didn't know that that's what I would be. That's how I would contribute to their vision. And over time, that it came true. Obviously, it lended itself to be a manifestation of what she had seen that happens in television quite a bit. And it's like something that I had to see Annalise over Viola, because that's not just professional, but that's just wise, because I have something to contribute to this industry as well. And I wanted her to see Renee and not just Milauna. She had seen Milauna in a couple of instances before. So, but this was my time to play with her, and I was invited to play. And it was rewarding. I am very happy that it turned out the way that it did.
You didn't die, so, or get murdered, so you got out of there.
Although people wanted to see that bitch die, okay?
Sinclair Part 2. Oh shit. And then this kind of connects to Law and Order, the courtroom scenes and How to Get Away with Murder. Did you bring some of that to your public defender, or it's a different, like?
Yeah, I couldn't. I don't like to replicate any performances. There'll be idiosyncrasies that are consistent because I am human, and that'll reflect, I'm sure, in a courtroom scene. There'll be elements that I may see tomorrow, and I'm like, I've seen me do that before. But I'm a public defender, so my intention is different.
Yeah.
My stakes are higher because there's actually a man's life that's on the line, as opposed to, protecting the state. I think the DA protects the district attorney protects the people, right, against the against, it's like we're representing those who need protection from someone that is as powerful as Annalise. Like, this is a powerhouse. They have the resources and the ability to succeed in their criminal offenses, as opposed to men and women who have been exposed to the system in a different kind of way, circumstantial, accidental, or, and so defending that looks different. So I did not want to bring Renee. I wanted to bring my new character. And I appreciate actually doing it. It's hard though, I will say, because once I finish a project, I kind of leave it at the stage. So it won't be until I see it that I'll be able to really articulate my thoughts about, the outcome. But I will say I made a concerted effort to bring something different. It's also much more fun to do that, and more work, obviously, but it's more enjoyable for me.
We'll be watching. And then Annalise's man, Billy Brown, any memorable meeting him or first time or
memorable?
Or we know what scene was memorable, but or just like or
Well, I will say, because I know what you're getting at. It was my first love scene.
Awesome.
So, upon seeing a man who is sexualized on a show like How to Get Away with Murder, and that's your first love scene, I did not think I was in shape enough to be in the scene with Billy Brown. He's so
Lord.
He is so fit. That I was wondering, if I probably had been prepared, I could have, mentally gathered myself on what that looks like on camera. But I didn't. I just jumped in head first, and it's ABC. Mm-hmm. So I knew I know, because of standards and practices, they can't exploit any nudity in a way that other networks have more leverage. But it was an interesting first time for me to do a love scene, and that's with a man that everybody just knew wasn't for me. So I had to learn during that process. Oh, and I'll say this is a cute little moment. I was talking to one of the producer writers on the show right before our take. Her name is Erica Green. She's now on Amsterdam, I want to say. She's doing well. She was like, okay, I have to give you all of the don't. It's like no moaning, no sounds. Like, it has to be the most like most choreographed improv love scene. So it's like all of the things you would typically do in the Night of Passion, don't do any of that, but make it look good. So that's a whole nother element to a love scene. It's like, well, okay, so I'm not leading with my feminine wiles. I'm not leading with sexuality. How do I make this scene work? I don't know. And Billy, because he's had the experience, he was basically the vet in the situation. He kind of just allowed me to figure it out, and I guess it worked.
Yeah. Oh Lordy.
That's how it was. Yeah. Question. That's how it was. He was so calm. I remember him. It was like we did the rehearsal. He was so calm. He was eating food and snacks. I'm like brushing my teeth to make sure I smell fresh and jumping, right. I just, what'd you say?
Jumping jacks or squats on the fitness.
Squats. Okay. Yeah. Squats. God.
Really? Okay. Oh shit. Um, and then you watching the show before you were on it and knowing like how big of a character Wes was on it, were you shocked like with the direction they went with him being under the sheet and all of like moving the body and or have the cremating and all the trying to take her down and like
Yeah, it was a moment where I will say that I came in during a time of the show where those kinds of things hadn't happened yet. You know, it was very specific in how they were telling stories. Or Pete, no, Nowalk was very committed to telling the story in a specific kind of way. So when I came in, it was like that within itself was a shift. So you just didn't know what to expect. So obviously, all of the things that happened with Wes just kind of made sense with the shift. And so it's like a whodunit, which is one of the things that I love about doing a thriller. I love films. I grew up watching Ashley Judd do these thrillers that, are these seeing the going through the whole 90s era when they would have the dramas that all the leading men did, where it was like, did they do it? Didn't they do it? Who was the
back
killer?
and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. That element of mystery in storytelling is intriguing because our brains still like to function in a way where we have to think. We don't always want to be spoon fed, especially when it's people that we have grown to love. And so that was during season 3. They had grown to love these characters. Wesley was one of them. And so I was just the perfect catalyst to opening up this idea of deflection, to kind of get you to look away from the killer as opposed to towards the killer, creating new chances for the audience to believe that I was capable, or someone new could be capable of doing something so heinous. That is the beautiful thing about working on any project where it's like a mystery, a murder mystery. And my goal is to do more of those because I love those. Horror is my favorite genre.
Oh,
Good horror, I have to say. Good horror. And thrillers. And then, obviously I can go down the list, but anything that comes with the idea of you going on this journey for an hour and a half, the audience is captivated, and then the reward is figuring out if you were right or not.
mm-hmm.
It's fun.
The satisfaction. Yeah, like if you're
Yeah,
yeah.
I knew she did it. I knew
Yeah, from the beginning.
Yes, that's what I love. So yeah, I
Yeah.
contributed to that. Made me feel good.
Yeah, like the shift you were talking about. I feel like the show, like seasons 1 through 3 are kind of like their own, and then 4, 5, and 6 are like the big shift, but still connected, But like killing off Wes was like the big like catalyst, yeah. Like, and then wait, what was your favorite scary movie? What would your if you had to pick really quick? Like,
Why would you ask me the favorite?
'cause
Okay, I'm just gonna say what came to mind first. I'm
okay.
gonna say what came to mind first, and that's The Shining.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
It takes nothing away from anything else, but it was the first thing that came to mind. And I have to say, The Shining, for so many reasons. I did not read the book. I feel like if I read the book, it'll make me like the movie less. But for so many reasons, beyond just the idea of, this man being the devil incarnate, but just the commitment of all the performers, every single person in that film committed to telling the best film that they possibly could in a genre that's exploited and exploitive often. And that's just, it's like triggering people's fears. That's a real thing. And to be able to do that and with a movie from the first minute to the last minute is not an easy task. And then we're seeing this, you know, what happens when someone's in a state of psychosis, when they lose their mind, when it's, you know, we see we were exposed to prophecy, the little boy being able to see, you know, his gifts come out through vision and foresight, and you know, yeah, it was just like the blood, like it was visually the idea of it. When I saw it, I was like, I like this, and I kind of went on this path as a kid. I remember as a kid like having to see every movie in the horror genre, and then that's when I realized, oh, it's rare. This is rare. Like, it's not the rule, it's the exception that you'll have all elements of cinema be stellar in this genre.
Iconic. Good pick. Good pick. Oof. I'm just like picturing all like here's Johnny and the maze, and
you don't have to the maze,
right?
The brilliance of a child following their instinct of how to survive and get away from their father. This was his father. You know, this wasn't some innkeeper. This wasn't a stepdad. This is his parent. So the idea of him, of the kid figuring out how to navigate tricking his father. You know what I'm saying? Like that, man.
I could have took on the stepdad, but I would have not the real dad. No.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
that's a level of, again, as a psychological, you know, for terms of psychological trauma, that's triggering some of that for people. So there's that fear again. How do you survive threats, even if it's coming from your parent? And we saw it. And then the twist at the end, you know, oh my God.
You're gonna watch it after this, probably. Put it on. Just a couple more. I'm sorry.
You got me. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. Okay. The scene that always kind of sticks out with Atwood and Annalise is in 309 when Annalise comes to your office and you guys get like face to face, like inches, and she's like, someone may take me down, but my ass if it's gonna be you, and you guys are just like going at it like oh my, like how do like going up against Viola, how did like talk about that.
Okay, I have to talk about this thing because it was pure fearlessness. I had this idea and I went with it and was follow my gut, and I treated it like I would any job. I did the work and stood behind it and did something which I had never seen anyone do on the show, and that's challenge her in her face, in her space, in such a unrelenting way. And I remember I love that Viola said this because it gave me permission to continue to do that, and that's follow my instinct. She said, you know, if she gets in my face, I'm gonna have to get in her face. And I was like, well, let's go.
This is my office. This is
my office. Like, bitch, wait, hold on. Do you see my name is on that door? Like, I have full domain to and the authority to demand that you will respect me in this arena, this little small space. I don't have, it's not a few. I don't have much, but I have enough to be able to stand on both feet and get up and let you know that I don't fret easily. And she was like, well, neither do I. And I love that because that's in alignment with who our characters were. You know, it was not in the script. None of that was in the script, to be honest with you. That confrontational moment happened because I pushed the envelope and I wanted to. I tend to, most of the things, the majority of every project I've ever worked on, I decide to be audacious enough to do something that's not in the script. They don't always keep it. Sometimes they edit it out. Sometimes they keep it. And that was a moment that was a take that they liked. And that was also a moment that for me validated myself, because this isn't an industry that always validates you when you haven't the cachet that is necessary for them to believe that you have what it takes to succeed. Because it's still human beings deciding who they see as stars or not, right? Who they feel has the potential to be able to connect with America. And I've not been supported in that way because I didn't have the cachet. Again, I am from a blue collar working labor town. I did not have a lot of real theater credits. The theater credits that I did have were rooted in Black small community theaters, which don't get the funding and the resources that Goodman would get. They, you know, most people don't pour into the community, the theaters that hone the writing skills of the next August Wilson or the next Lorraine Hansberry. They don't typically come out of these fine institutions. They come out of sometimes Black community theater, and I'm part of that. And so, you know, when you're a part of a system and you're coming in from the back road, you don't always get equal access. And I didn't know what I was capable of. I didn't know I was capable of being able to work opposite Viola Davis until I was fucking on the show, working opposite Viola Davis, and Viola being present in a way that she probably didn't expect to be present in when she came to work that day. She didn't know what I was going to bring to the table. You know, she wasn't aware of my work experience. She hadn't been following me my entire career, so she didn't know what I was going to present until I did. And then she realized, like, oh, this isn't just the one episode off actress. This is an actress that actually has done some work and is creating something that I can work with, that the writers can be inspired to flesh out. You know, like that's being audacious. That's getting in her face when it may not be in the script, but I felt led to. You know, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad that she expressed that, because initially I didn't know that's how TV worked. I didn't wait for permission. I didn't ask, because I was never trained to ask. And that's what happens when you come in through the back road.
Oh my God. That makes even more like the scene even 500 times better. Oh my God. That's awesome. Oh my God. I would be scared, but okay. And no, that's really awesome. And it makes it a lot, like, knowing that it wasn't scripted and that's what you're told you to get up and yeah.
Yeah. See, the lines are there. You know, a writer always has to come up, obviously, with the structure and the words, but the performance comes alive with the performers. So that's either an artist or an actor, you know, and an artist will create more elements than just an actor, because some actors do like to just stick to what is in the script. And it works a lot of times. Like, it's not every scene, you know, but there are certain moments where when you're in a groove and the person they're coming to work expecting like you to play. And that happened a lot on Jazzman. You know, once I have a acting coach by the name of Carl Ford, and his mother is the infamous Susan Batson through Susan Batson Studios in New York. And he worked with me. They both worked with me on Jazzman. And one of the things that I was encouraged, because this was my first time working in a film to this capacity, you know, that people respect when you come prepared with something. It can be awkward, it can be esoteric, it can be eccentric, it can be simple, but it's something, you know. It's like it's like potluck, you know, or a band. Like everyone is contributing in some way, and the way that Jazzman was written and presented was like a play. And so it felt very close to the kind of theater that I was conditioned to doing. So we all have a part. There are people who, there is a journey that the hero is on, and this hero is on this journey, but it's an ensemble that's contributing to it. So you are bringing something other than just memorization and you know, your gifts and talents. It's like you're bringing all of you, and this is how you do it. And so I feel like Murder and Chicago PD and Strike Back and Lincoln Heights, Cold Case, Without a Trace, Dexter, FBI, American Skin, 1 Week, Animal Kingdom. If I didn't say Animal Kingdom, they all prepared me. Like all of the jobs, everything that I've said yes to, and even the things that I've wanted to say yes to that they said no to, I still had to prepare for these auditions. I still had to prepare for these director sessions and these the table readings that I've done where I may not have, they didn't get funded. You know, all the projects, all of that. And that's one of the many things that Viola was able to contribute in my life. Is I would hear her say things like, do the work, and understanding, oh, that's what doing the work means. You know, sometimes some of us get a project, and our very first project, we have no credits. We've never done anything, but our very first project is a project that gives us instant exposure, you know? And so then it's like, okay, even if you get that, it's still a marathon. You still have to do more jobs. You know, you still have to do more projects. That's the work. Also balancing that with your own personal life, knowing that in your personal life, it's going to reflect in your professional life. So you're doing the work on being the best person you can be, you know, being the set on time or early. Sometimes when it's really early, they're not ready for you, so they freak out. Like, you don't say that, because I've been that person. I've been like, I was show up 15 minutes early so I can, and it's like, well, we don't have your trailer yet, so can you just go in your car and then we'll text you when we're ready. because this is a set, like this is a studio lot, like we all wrapped very late last night.
This ain't a restaurant reservation or something. Like waiting for a table. Oh, shit.
So, you know, but that's a part of doing the work, knowing the material, not just memorizing the lines and then figuring it out on a day, but actually having something prepared. And I feel like that's what each of these opportunities is done up until all the way to Law and Order. That's the only way I would be able to do the kind of lifting that I had to do on that show, because I did not go to law school. I did not matriculate from college or, an Ivy League university that surrounded me with the kind of legal jargon that was necessary to be able to do a procedural show. So I had to figure out what I was saying within a short span of time and allow it to stick, and then communicate with my friends who were there supporting me to let me know I could do this, because that was scarier than working with Annalise Keaton. Because at least
your best friends. Yeah.
Right, exactly. This was completely different. And then it was it's also different because I had to fly to New York. You know, I'm driving from home. So there's a little bit of comfort of if I remember leaving set, and I'm going to say this. I know we're about to end soon, but I have to say this, admit this, because this is a real thing. And sometimes people miss it. I was coming from set, one episode from Murder, and I did not have what I felt was the most supportive environment. We're all playing pretend, but sometimes people forget that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in my car. The director felt like I wasn't getting it. I was a woman I didn't feel supported by, and I was really down on myself and feeling like she was right. And my mother circumvented that in the most supportive way. And that's what kept me on the show. If I listened to this woman who may not be aware until today that how the danger of doing that kind of thing in an environment where we're the minority still, if I had listened to her, I may not have made it through the entire season. I am not sure how I would have made it to do Law and Order or to do whatever next project is coming up after that. The key component to any success for anyone, even listening to Viola's book, is you need people in your life that support you and your dream. You cannot only be the supporter in a relationship, in a friendship, in a in any industry. I was going to say in this industry, but in any industry, you have to have people who believe that what you see as possible, they see as possible. And that alliance is what contributes to success. It's not an external source that comes from being validated by the industry. It's an internal thing, because you got to believe it. Obviously, I had to believe it. But in moments of doubt, when you're actually in the trenches of a show like a juggernaut like Murder, and you have someone who you see or respect not respect you back, it can have a lasting impression and a negative impression. And it is how we as humans get in our own way, because sometimes we are just reflecting and projecting our own fears again onto other people.
Wow. Yes. Thank you for that. Oh man, yes. I need to finish Viola's book. I did read that part.
Yeah, she revealed a lot, and she was very transparent in a way that was courageous and necessary, because most of us assume that strength looks like a certain way, and we're born like that. And you have to get exposed to the resistance in order to see how strong you are. And yeah, that's life. That's true.
Okay. I have one more question. Did you get to take any Atwood's thing or anything from set or a script or keep any memorabilia?
Yes, I always have scripts because the scripts are inscribed with my name. So typically I like hard copies. I'm like old school. I want hard copy, put
on
it
the shelf. Yeah.
But no, I didn't get much Perry from that, unfortunately, from that production. And I think it was because I was a recurring guest star. So usually you're a recurring guest star, unless things are aligned in timing. It's like the timing of it. If the timing is aligned when they're distributing paraphernalia, then they'll incorporate you in that. But if it's not, you don't get anything, but memories. So when you ask me what did I get, I did get those memories. And then I got something that I'm glad this is a perfect time to talk about. I don't talk about this often. Viola was on the Actors Studio. And I remember watching it, and there was a clip that they played and the scene that they showed with the image was me and her in the courtroom.
Oh,
And so if there's any memorabilia that I can actually say that I was on the actor's studio, it happened to be on her episode,
right.
but just
Aw.
the idea of seeing myself on a show that I watched frequently reminded me of how possible it is. So although it wasn't something from set, it was the experience,
the journey. Yeah.
that that I was able to see as a part of memorabilia, and that is, the actor studio.
That's better than any little sign or paper, probably. Then
You can lose, like, honestly, those are tangible, trinkets
yeah.
that have value, obviously, when upon sight. But to see myself on that in that setting really opened my eyes about how big I should dream.
Mm. We gotta all keep dreaming. Ah.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, I think we have less than a minute again somehow. So I just want to thank you so much for keeping in communication and finally making this happen with me and being a part of my favorite show. And it really means a lot getting to talk to you and finding out all the little behind the scenes stuff. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Niles. I look forward to the next time that we speak again.
I'll see you tomorrow in the courtroom.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.